Welcome, everybody, to episode 129 of The China Show.
Woo-wee.
And yes, we haven't changed our intro from ADV Podcasts just yet.
You know why?
Why?
Because we don't listen to you guys. No. Just make sure that we take all of your suggestions, throw them right in the garbage. Just kidding. Totally forgot. It's honestly because, and this is a dumb excuse, but we had so much to put in the episode today.
Yeah.
We should have actually started putting stuff in yesterday because how jam-packed it is. And I know we say it's jam-packed every time. This is
very jam-packed. Yeah. Now, look, China's just done something which is probably going to change the world forever.
Yeah.
Okay, and the way the world deals with things, it's not clickbait, it's something pretty awful, and we're going to see it in the main section in the Soft Power Hour. But we have to start out with some funny things and some interesting things in What's New.
Let's butter you up a little bit.
Yeah, so anyway, in What's New, we talk about what's new with regards to China. And something that was floating around today on the internet, which we thought was kind of funny, I'll put in the background, is this. What do you think's going on here? This is in China, by the way. So,
did you say this is or isn't?
No, this is.
Yeah, this is in China.
So what do you think's happening
here? Waterfall for China. I'm surprised the water's not like green with paint.
Yeah, that happens occasionally.
Yeah,
but no,
anyway.
This is quite typical. You know, you go to a tourist spot, you do an Instagram selfie. This in particular was from Douyin, I think. Anyway, let's take a look at what's going on there. Wonderful. Whoop. Whoop.
Is that a foreigner? Is that a Laoban?
It's hard to tell.
I think that might be a foreigner.
You think it's a foreigner? It's really hard to tell.
It might be.
Well, I mean, what you can see here is there's a guy walking on the waterfall behind, and he's reaching out to like touch the falling water, so to speak.
Yeah, that's
right.
What you do, right? It looks like his arm is already broken.
Well, either way, he's
hyperextended.
Yeah, he's reaching out and loses his footing, and oh no!
I just like the girl's reaction to that. It was
yeah,
great.
it's pretty funny.
Let's play it again.
Yeah, we'll play it again.
I love his. It's fairly graceful. You know that hurt his knee so bad.
Oh yeah, you know it is. Bam. He's like, no.
Oh, so-called waterfall.
I tell you what,
so-called waterfall.
Yeah,
there's a couple things to point out. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's pretty embarrassing, by the way.
No, go back. We gotta cover. Go to the original clip.
Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty. Why is it embarrassing?
Well, I mean, you're in some like girl's Instagram moment forever now.
Sure.
Being an idiot.
Oh, Douyin, yeah. Okay, go to the beginning before he falls. I want you to read. There's so many entendres here.
Oh yeah, sharing travel. At sharing travel registered trademark at trip in China.
He tripped in China.
He did trip in China.
Oh,
yeah.
You know what he can do from now on is he can pull this clip up from this girl's Douyin.
And this will be my trip in China.
I'm going to show you my trip in China.
Yeah, that's the ultimate dad joke. Yes. You know what I mean?
Waterfall diplomacy from Carrie. That is correct.
Exactly. But yeah, it is from Douyin. It's got the Douyin ID down there. It's like, oh yeah, trip in China. Boom. All right.
It's like China's funniest some videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Whoa!
Just need some sound effects. Now, guys, a couple episodes ago, we introduced you all to the Laoban look. You all know the Laoban look, right?
You got, just to revise this, a lot of people are new for different episodes, or you didn't see it. The Laoban look, a Laoban is a boss in China. You don't have to be a boss to be a Laoban, you can have the look. So a lot of these older men, or middle-aged to older men, they want to emulate the CCP.
Yeah, sort of officials and the boss look. They want to look important, so their style is what?
Yes, you got usually a shiny polo shirt.
Yeah, some kind of a polo shirt, yeah.
Muted color that looks like it's been through the wash 5,000 times, but it just comes like that.
Yep.
So you get a dull blue, a dull green, a dull gray, a dull, Sometimes you get some stripes, uneven, like weird consistency.
Depends,
stripes, kind of like 80s, 90s looking wallpaper or something. Then you have it tucked into some dress pants.
Yeah, but they got to be really high with a belt, with a gaudy belt buckle, like
all the way up.
Yeah, like belly button.
Keys out.
Yeah, like a keychain.
Keychain, or you can have a cell phone holster if you're, more wealthy.
Yeah, Bluetooth earpiece.
And you either have fake leather shoes, like fake leather dress shoes, or leather sandals.
Yes, with socks.
Yes, with socks.
Yeah. So let's take a look at this clip. Here's a handsome young man. Okay, we'll get out of there.
I translated it.
You put subtitles. Okay, so let's see what happens.
男人过了20岁就不能穿得像小孩子了，应该成熟稳重。
So for those of you listening, there's a handsome young man sitting in a doorway, and he's like, when a man turns 20 or a boy turns 20 years old, he has to grow up, he has to be mature, he has to dress like,
you can't dress like a child
Yeah,
anymore.
You can't dress like a child anymore. So what is he going to do? Laoban look. That's amazing. So he's walking around emulating the Laoban, you know? He came to Laoban, my favorite.
He's like amongst the other Laoban guys.
Yes, yeah.
And then the other Laoban like reaches out and chats with him about whatever he's staring at.
Yeah.
Like he's just one of them.
Yeah, he is. He's just one of them. It's that whole hands behind the back thing.
Staring at stuff.
Anyone who's been to China, who's lived in China, knows that this is just the look.
Yes.
That's what
It's
people
the
of that
look.
age do. They walk around with their hands behind their back like that. Look, he's emulating this guy sitting here. It's hilarious.
Oh, this guy in Douyin is a genius. He
Yeah.
pulled it off perfectly.
And this is just a typical street scene. They'll be playing slap or Chinese chess or whatever it is. And, you know, there you go, stand and stare with your hands behind your back. Maybe add a comment every once in a while. He's doing it perfectly. He's got it
great.
down.
This is like self-awareness, and it's beautiful, and he's poking fun at the Laoban look. This guy's a creative genius.
Yeah, it's excellent. And it ages him drastically.
It does. It's like he fits in flaw. He's such a model.
Yeah, he's like he's a
freaking
handsome
model. Yeah.
young man, and he turns into like a like a garbage old middle age. You know what I mean?
It literally
Look,
propels
he's
him.
got the T floss.
He does, and he's got the
T floss.
posture.
Yes. He got the posture down. I love the T floss.
Yeah,
because
it's
it's always
great.
got tons of leaves in it. It's like
Yes,
getting
it's
stuck in
loose
your teeth.
teeth.
Yeah.
Oh, man,
Brilliant. Love this guy.
perfect, yeah.
Love this guy. This is amazing. What a good skit.
Yes.
Now we got to move on to something a little more crappy, okay?
Yeah, this isn't fun.
Shanghai, guys, guess what? Just when you think it's over, they're back.
Shanghai.
Yeah, it's more like Shanghai, right? What you can see behind us right now is a row of temporary fencing that's just been put up to fence off an entire area and neighborhood. Okay? And this is what they call a snap lockdown. Okay?
You know what I call this?
What?
Oh, there's no way this could happen again. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I got sent a couple of these pictures from people in Shanghai, and then now it's been making the rounds on some Shanghai WeChat groups, so it's leaked out into the common zeitgeist out there. But basically, last night, again, we started to see lockdowns happen where they're actually coming in with trucks, as you can see here from this video clip behind us here. Truck with all the temporary fencing, so they're fencing off and locking down more areas again. So apparently the guy sent that to me. Oh yeah, we got this cool Shamate thing we'll show you in a second. Guy sent this to me, by the way. Says he's already in day 4 of lockdown again.
Snap lockdown, so there's no prep.
Yeah, so snap lockdown means you just basically get told on your phone that you're not allowed to leave your apartment, your code turns red or whatever, and you're screwed.
So basically it's Locktober.
Yeah, it's Locktober. I like that. Why is everything Rocktober, Trucktober? You know what I mean?
Charge.
Yeah, charge. Yeah.
Don't forget to pick up your Dodge Ram at Trucktober. Don't forget Truckvember.
Yeah, exactly.
Goes all the way to
Got
charge.
like Movember.
Yeah.
What was that? There's always something to do with. No, not November. That's October, not November.
Yeah, but that's just November. There's no play on words.
Yeah, there's
there.
October and November. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's always October anyway. Yeah. Locktober. Yeah. So again, to
You've
the
been
people.
feeling November pretty hard.
Not,
pretty harsh over here.
It's not November yet, right?
Oh yeah, it's not October.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, guys, the whole point is. This is happening right now again in Shanghai. So a lot of us, including ourselves, have reached fatigue. Again, when it comes to these lockdowns. You hear about another lockdown in China, you're like, oh, well, whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's like we've heard that. That's old news. But it's not old news. It's new news. It's back again. And it's here for a second time. Part 2. This time it's personal. Okay? But quite seriously.
Is rough, dude.
This is a nonsense situation, and it's bizarre to me to see the kind of discourse that goes online.
Yes,
is a lot of people try to defend this. Foreigners that are still in China, they'll be like, "Oh, that didn't happen in my area. Everything's fine." Yeah, not in your area next.
Shanghai.
Like yet. I mean, it's gonna be you next.
You know what happened to Shanghai as well?
What?
Some of the people were like, "Well, at least we went through it and we finished it."
Yes. That's the thing.
Yikes.
And a lot of people that went to Shanghai, that were in Shanghai, that immediately when they could leave,
They did Shanghai.
they went out of Shanghai, but then they got stuck in Sanya because there was a lockdown there. And like now in Yunnan as well, they got locked down. It's a screw up, guys. Yeah. Just so you know, it's ongoing. And it's something we want to remind you of because, like I said, everyone gets fatigued. Everyone forgets about it. And you're like, oh, whatever, those lockdowns, they're done, right? But they're not done. No. The zero COVID policy is ridiculous and it's affecting people's lives. And
Tibet's still in lockdown.
Yeah, of course.
No one's talking about that.
It's awful. And I see these people online saying like, oh, I'm looking for a job in Shanghai. Like, you know, they ask me questions like, how would I get there? I'm like, are you a moron?
Are you regarded as dumb?
Like seriously, yes. Yeah. Why would you go to Shanghai right now?
Right.
Unless you love the prospect of arbitrary detention.
I love it.
Yeah.
Maybe some people are super into that. It's kind of like living on the edge. Am I going to get locked down tomorrow?
Yeah.
Will it be a snap
lockdown? Will they give me like 12 hours warning? Who knows?
I think I can do it in 6 this time, guys.
Yeah. Maybe it's like those survival, what do you call it? It's like preppers or whatever.
And it'll be like urban survival.
Yeah, urban preppers. Like make sure you got you know what I mean? It's like tin food. I've got enough. Like, come on, bring the lockdown. I've got a whole room full of tuna.
They get really pissed off when there's no lockdown.
Yeah, they're like, when's the zombie apocalypse coming? You know, it's like those guys in the woods or whatever.
Yeah,
they got like storerooms of stuff.
Yeah, JK says maybe it's a kink.
Yeah, I think it is a kink. The Shanghai lockdown kink. Anyway, so we just thought we'd show that to you because it sucks. But like back to something funny. We've got a new Shamate clip, which, by the way, first time ever you will see translated here. We translated it this morning.
Yeah, yes. So also, some context.
Yes.
This guy
that you're about to see.
The first Shamate. He invented the style.
Yes.
And he's embraced it as like being the inventor now.
Yeah, so let's take a look. We'll get ourselves out of there.
Love it.
Here it comes. Eventually.
Not this.
No.
Promises.
大家好，我叫罗夫辛，杀马特的创始人。今天我来带大家认识一款曾经风靡全球的一款发型——彩虹波波头。当然，我这一款是升级版，叫君临天下。这款发型的坏处就是平常走在街上，再怎么低调，都会被异性爱慕的眼神给揪出，躲都躲不掉。没有，我玩的是感情，你玩的是秘密。当然还是有很多实用性的，比方说让我瞬间增高40厘米，重获身高自信。男孩子出门在外都很容易受伤，有了这款发型以后就可以避免这种烦恼。笑死了，根本就不痛。这么有安全感的发型，肯定有人想问，这个发型的创作灵感来源于哪里？必须是头盔啦。
So yeah, I absolutely love that.
I love the self-awareness of the Shamate.
Shamate are awesome. Big fan of Shamate.
Big hair, big fan.
For those of you who are perhaps listening, we'll just quickly run you through it. The guy's got the most ridiculous hairstyle you've ever seen.
It's like, I mean, how would you explain it? Like a half moon cookie?
It's kind of like a mushroom. You know, like in Mario, you get that toadstool mushroom.
It's toad.
Yeah, but it's much bigger though.
Yeah.
And he's got a heart. It's like a rainbow heart and a rainbow spray painted on it, basically.
Yeah.
And he goes on about how it's amazing and
the hairstyle is called the rainbow bob.
The rainbow bob
the
hairstyle
version.
Yeah,
keeps you safe. Chicks love it.
Yeah,
keeps you safe when you fall on it.
And like the positives is that it increases your height. Okay.
Yes.
So you get your confidence back. It makes you taller than your girlfriend or whatever.
Yeah.
And if you fall down, it protects you from injury.
Yeah.
Which is
there's a lot of perks.
Yeah, and he says the inspiration of it is, of course, a helmet.
This guy rules.
Yeah, he's great.
He's actually awesome. He has a lot of funny videos.
This one over here is actually aimed at you.
Son of a beep.
Yeah.
Son of a beep. Thanks, Jüri.
Yeah.
To help Sea Milk when he has trouble sleeping. This is actually nightmare fuel.
It is pretty bad.
It's, as you guys know, if you're new, I just can't stand Imagine Dragons, and I also can't stand Minions. So combining the two is maybe my nightmare.
Well, there it is. Yeah. Now you can enjoy that nightmare forever. Should make. I'll print it out and put it up in the office for us.
Thanks. Looks like a creation of like some sort of radioactive experiment.
Yeah, it does, right? Doesn't it? It looks awful. Anyway, it's time for some super chats before we move on to the main part of the show.
Look All Night says, can't stay for the whole show, but I wanted to recommend Red Roulette. A great bio about an entrepreneur in China. I'm currently reading it.
Oh, you are?
Actually, yeah, I'm probably going to interview the author.
That's cool.
Halfway through and getting to where she rises to power. Terrifying book. Horrifying. It's actually, I like put it off because it's so good, but it's actually really scary.
Okay.
David, I'll save yours for Yamcha as you request.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you very much to Angel Pivonka. Thank you very much. RD Caleb says, I worked in a housekeeping department in a 5-star hotel in the middle of Taipei, and I found out that people throw used toilet paper in the trash bin out inside the toilet. The poop toilet is real. So Winston is right. Yes, and we went through that, and I spoke to some people. My memory, I guess what happened is that it was a vast improvement over China's situation. So I was remembering the improvement because there were a lot of areas that you didn't have to do that.
Yeah. And I think when you got there, your school set you up with an apartment and stuff, right?
No, I found my own apartment.
You did?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did everything myself.
How did you get a Laowai friendly toilet then?
All of the toilets.
You know what? Maybe what you're doing is flushing the stuff down there, but you're not supposed to.
Maybe I was. But a lot of places I went to didn't have the toilet bin. You know what I mean? It was a vast improvement over mainland China. Over China, not mainland China. There's only one China, and it's mainland.
PRC.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, cool. So shall we move on?
Yeah, let's...
right, we're going to do Soft Power Hour. This is where we talk about what China's done, which is kind of devastating to the status quo in the world. Okay, and what we're going to do is show you a little thing over here, and maybe you can begin with an introduction as to what's happened here.
So, UN, United Nations, right? They have a section called the UN Human Rights Council, and really their job is to make sure that all UN members, all the nations that come together to form the UN, are not breaking human rights violations to the point of being a gross crime against humanity. Right. Yeah. And you have a situation where you have nations will take an issue, let's say war crimes in Libya or something.
Or like first people crimes in Canada.
Yeah, something like this. They'll bring that to the
crimes
forefront.
against first people.
Yeah.
Not like, hey, those first people, they're crimes, man.
They're
crime spree.
Crimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So you bring that to the forefront, and then the nations will vote on it.
Yeah.
In the vast majority of the time, the nations will come together fairly unanimously to say, yes, let's further the investigation or further a debate on the issue.
So they have debates. In other words, they bring something to the table and then they talk about it and what should be done about it.
Yes. So
as you guys know, if anything should be done about it.
Yes. As you guys know, there's a gross human rights violation happening in Western China, where millions of Uyghur people have been subjugated to forced labor, forced imprisonment, concentration camps, cultural genocide, linguistic genocide, all of this kind of stuff that makes up deleting a culture.
Let's just, before we even continue with this, I'd like to play a bit of devil's advocate here. Let's just say you're one of those guys who's sitting on the fence, okay? And you don't really think there's anything too bad going on in Xinjiang. Okay, I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Evidence aside.
Okay, evidence aside. What would you say to, in the modern day, I mean, like right now, in the modern day, you pick any minority group in your country, whether it be Native Americans or Roma or black people or whatever it is. Like, just you choose the one you want. Yeah. And you say, okay, we are going to separate them from their families, take the men out and go put them in these vocational schools. We're going to,
because that's acknowledged.
Yeah. We're going to just take them away against their will and put them in these massive big vocational schools away from their family and tell them that they're no longer allowed to study their religious beliefs or follow their traditions. They must learn the national language that we've decided they must learn. All right? They're no longer allowed to practice their previous traditions and beliefs and that sort of thing. Because that's, at the very bare minimum, is 100% what's been happening.
That's what the Chinese government acknowledges.
Yes.
That's what they sell.
Yeah, so like I said, even if you're somebody who sits on the fence and says, oh, it's probably not genocide, it's probably not.
Yes.
At the very least, would you accept that kind of thing? Would you say that that's okay from a human rights perspective to take people and strip them of their religion, traditions, language, and force them to comply to your country's language, your country's traditions? So in other words, it's the same as like forcing a Native American to be Christian. You must be Christian. You must speak English. Yeah. You're not allowed to practice any of your traditions. You're not allowed to grow a beard or whatever you do.
You have to worship the president.
Yeah, you're not allowed to. Yeah, exactly. You have to worship the political party.
Yes.
I'm just saying, like, that is at the very bare minimum. So
and memorize all of the manuscripts. Of
yes,
that
exactly. Now, I mean, that's just that's not an extreme example. That's a very, very like small example of what's going on. But of course, there's tons of proof that there is forced labor. There has been sexual abuse. There has been terrible things happening.
Lots of forced sterilization and abortion.
Awful, awful things happening.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the very least, this is worthy.
You're at the bare minimum.
Yeah, this is the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And even with the bare minimum in mind, you would still think that it's worth investigating, worth debating from a human rights perspective.
Any movement of millions of people into concentration camps, regardless of what's even happening at that point, warrants further investigation.
Yeah.
So then you bring it back to reality and you go, wait a minute, this country has been for years now not allowing any information to come out of this province.
Yes.
Not a drip or drab to come out of this province. The people can't leave. The people can't talk. And then you find out from these leaked files that people are ending up in these camps and in prison for decades.
Yes.
For doing things like praying or using an app with a VPN or listening to a podcast.
Or being in the same house where an uncle was like listening to a podcast.
As a child.
Yes.
Arresting a child and throwing them in prison because their uncle was listening to a podcast.
Yeah.
Then you get into the point where you go, that's absolutely worthy of investigation.
Yeah.
Then you get people that escape, and you get eyewitness accounts of rape and torture, and it becomes much grimmer and more horrifying than you could ever imagine. Then you go, wait a minute, this definitely requires investigation, right?
Yes.
So the UN sends someone over on a government-sponsored trip.
And by the way, the Chinese government stonewalls for a decade, basically. But it does not allow anyone to do any investigations, does not allow any independent news or anything to look into the situation. And the only time they ever let anyone in is a UN head of the UN to go on a guided tour. Yeah. And the head of the UN is also deeply indebted to China and is a big friend of China anyway.
Right,
and is about to...
The human rights.
Yeah, the human rights one. And is about to leave her post.
Right.
And so they bring her in at the last minute, and she releases this kind of weak-worded report 13 minutes or whatever before she actually quits, so that she's not forced to follow up on it.
But it did insinuate.
Yeah, it said that there's probably crimes against humanity happening here.
That's the big one.
Yeah.
Right? So here's the deal. Even after all of the duress and kind of stonewalling that you mentioned, she still puts something out that says, there's probably
something bad.
Massive human rights abuse.
So surely that warrants an investigation, and then that's what was voted on. Okay?
So it goes to vote, right?
Yeah, and you get all the countries together and they say, listen, this human rights report says that there's probably terrible crimes against humanity happening here. Should we look into it further?
Yeah.
What do you think happened? Well, maybe you could tell everyone what happened.
Well, it's unprecedented. In the history of this organization in the UN, it's very rare that something gets voted against.
It's only happened twice before, right?
Yes. So 19 nations in the UN Human Rights Council voted no. There can't be any more debate about the human rights abuses of the Uyghurs in Xinjiang.
Yeah, it's like, no, we're not going to debate it. We're not going to investigate it. Get out of here.
This is where we stop it.
Yeah.
Right? 17 nations voted yes, this needs to be looked at.
And then 11 nations abstained.
Which is...
Now, that's cowardly, to be honest.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Now, whether they had their excuses or not, it's a different story, but it literally paints a precedent for the future. And let me tell you why. You could be absolutely heartless here, and you don't have to care about the Xinjiang situation at all. Let's say you just don't give a crap about the Xinjiang situation, right? Mm-hmm. You don't have to.
No.
Because this still pertains to you. It's something we deeply care about, but let's say you don't care about it. This still pertains to you because what this does going forward is shows international diplomacy and relationships to China and has created a clear delineation between nations that support human life and nations that are opposed to human life because
human rights.
And human rights, because their political dictatorships and political power and leadership is more important than the truth coming out of their nation. Their corruption is more important, and their money is more important than any prying eyes into seeing what kind of devious, dirty things are happening.
Well, I mean, do you guys want some proof? That's why you watch us, right?
Yes.
So we put together a compilation. C-Milk put it together this morning. We first wanted to just show you this quickly. This is the U.S. representative, and what she had to say is kind of poignant. Okay, so let me just put the volume up so we can hear it too. Okay, listen to this quickly. Yeah.
No country represented here today has a perfect human rights record. No country, no matter how powerful, should be excluded from council discussions. This includes my country, the United States, and it includes the People's Republic of China.
So, I mean, I think we can all agree with that, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter which country, if there are any kind of human rights abuses, they need to be looked at.
That's why this council exists.
Yeah, it's a human rights council.
It's to look into human rights abuse.
And so if it's something going on in America, if it's
matter
something going on in Canada, if
Yes.
it's something going on in the UK,
Yeah.
should be looked at.
Yes.
Right? Should be debated.
Yes.
If somebody does a report and says, there's credible crimes against humanity potentially happening here,
And you vote on it.
yeah, you vote on it.
That's what happens.
Yes, this is the UK. What they had to say.
They're here to discuss the most serious human rights violations and abuses wherever and by whomever they are committed. There can be no doubt about the gravity and the scale of what has been reported in Xinjiang warrants such a debate.
今天
Okay. Agree with that.
Absolutely.
Wherever, whomever.
Wholeheartedly.
Here's what China had to say. Okay.
Today, China is targeted. Tomorrow, any other developing country will be targeted.
Targeted for what? Targeted to look at human rights abuses.
So let me tell you what I'll do, like explain it like I'm 5.
Yeah.
So you guys can just get a concise viewpoint on this. You don't have to sift through all
Sure,
of these
sure.
like interviews and stuff. The general consensus of countries that care about human rights, which should be every country,
Sure.
right, is that no one is safe from the UN Human Rights Council's investigations or at least debate into potential human rights atrocities. That's why it exists. No one is exempt. You don't get to say, I'm the most powerful country in the world, and then just be like, okay, no one can investigate me.
Yeah.
That's not how this works. If you want to believe in this absolute nonsense idea that all of these imperialist Western powers control the narrative over everything so they get away with it anyway, it's nonsense. That's the reason that these councils exist in the first place.
Yes.
Right? Nothing gets brushed by the wayside because it's a Western country.
No.
So that argument's out the window.
I mean, in fact, there's more scrutiny.
Yes.
If there's any kind of human rights abuses going on in Western countries, it gets more spotlight than anywhere else.
Because countries that are developed to a point that they can focus on issues like this are held to a higher standard.
That's right.
As they should be, right? Now, that being said, when it comes to violations of human rights, the actual lives and beings of people and human beings, then that deserves the same scrutiny no matter where you are.
Correct.
Right? And that was the general consensus amongst people that voted, yes, we should debate about what's happening there.
Yeah.
Because China's not telling the truth, or at least not being transparent about it, right?
Right.
China's entire argument for this whole thing, if you go through everything, is that there shouldn't be a debate or an investigation, because if you investigate China, then all these other countries that commit human rights abuses and atrocities and crimes against humanity will be investigated next.
Yeah, you could be next.
It wasn't about, no, we're not doing it.
Yeah.
It's that if you look at us, they didn't talk to the West. They didn't talk to other people. They didn't talk to Japan or these other countries that follow the rules. They were talking to the countries that break the rules. And what they said was, listen, screw these other guys, right? If you today decide to vote to look into this Uyghur thing,
You're next.
you're next. They're going to look into your human rights abuses.
Yeah.
They were on point. They were on the nose. They did not beat around the bush. That was China's excuse. Yes, basically, yes, we are doing this, and you don't want to be caught up in this crap, right? Follow
Any
us.
other developing country will be targeted.
So now we actually have a list, and this is what you're going to probably not see anywhere else is this, okay? Not this particular picture, but this is the people that voted yes and voted no, okay? So we thought that we'd bring up what the similarities between the people who voted yes and the people who voted no are.
I hadn't
okay?
seen anyone do this, so
Yeah.
I wanted to dig around a little bit. Let's
So-
look at the countries that said
Yeah, who voted no? Who said no, we should not investigate, we should not debate about the human rights atrocities in China? Who said that?
Let's pull it up.
Okay, now I'll get us out of there for a second. We've got Cameroon, China, United Arab Emirates, Cuba, Eritrea, Kazakhstan, Gabon, Uzbekistan, Qatar, Venezuela, Sudan. Okay?
Amongst others. But
Yeah.
if I was to ask you, like, just to make it super simple, what do you see as a continuity amongst these countries?
They do not have freedom or political rights for the people.
So if you look at the score from Freedom House out of 100 for all of these countries, it classes them into a classification where you can see in that purple square of one of 3 classifications.
Yeah.
There's free, partly free,
and not free. So they are all not free. In other words, we're dealing with very authoritarian or dictatorship type countries here. Okay? They're the kind of people that don't want to lose control over their people. They're the kind of governments that enjoy suppressing people and ruling them, with an iron fist. Of course, they're not going to want people to look into what they do. You don't want to know what's going on in a lot of these countries. It's awful. They don't want anyone to know about what's going on.
You have Eritrea, the North Korea of Africa.
Yes.
Probably the 3rd least free country in the entire world on the UN Human Rights Council that actually got a chance to have a speech about why China shouldn't be investigated. And I swear, after this show, please go listen to the UN Human Rights Council speech from Eritrea. China wrote that for them.
Yeah, of course it did.
It's like verbatim.
Anyway, we thought we'd show you that what they all have in common is that they're not free countries. Now, how about the countries that voted yes?
I noticed something about a lot of the countries that voted yes.
Yeah, now the countries that voted yes, let's take a look at some of these. Czech Republic, Finland, South Korea, France, Germany, Poland, Japan, Lithuania, United Kingdom, Netherlands, United States. What is the common denominator with these countries?
I see something green there.
Yeah, it looks like these are what you might call free countries, according to Freedom House, by the way, which is a very good website.
Oh yeah, I mean it's a fantastic
organization.
Data organization. Yeah. It's fantastic. It goes through all these different factors into how countries are operated, metrics. All these countries were mostly free, right? Now there are obviously some outliers on both sides of this that some of them were partly free. I'm looking at the big voices here, right? Now when you look at this, it's a clear trend. And Freedom House, when I talk about a free country, I'm not talking about a free country that abuses humans. This takes civil liberties and political freedoms into account. Free means free for humans, not just for their political rights, but also for their right to life and to be alive.
I mean, take the United States, for instance. As much as everyone likes to poo-poo it, if you're a part of a minority here, you can have a voice. You can go out and protest. You can get an organization together. You can go out there and do stuff. You're free to do that. In China, if you're a minority and you're being downtrodden, you may not go onto the streets with a sign that says Uyghur Lives Matter. Okay, you may not go and burn something down and create a riot. It's not possible.
No.
Before you even get off the ground, before you even walk out of your house, you'll be detained and arrested. Because they monitor everything you do. That's the difference. For anyone out there who's about to say, oh, but my USA, this and that. Please, whataboutism is lame. Okay?
Find a better.
Yeah, exactly. This is just showing you that the Human Rights Council of the United Nations is now being steered by the dictators of the world.
Yeah. I mean, the voices that were voted, can you go back to the purple slide, please?
Sure.
I mean, we're talking about Sudan.
Yeah.
We're talking about countries that have genocides.
They shouldn't even be on the Human Rights Council.
Why are they there?
They should be on the Human Rights Abuses Council.
Yes.
We abuse human rights.
They support.
They can debate against the Human Rights Council. We're against Human Rights Council.
Now this is going to get a little bit meta, but hear me out for a second. This is where I wanted to lead with this. You have the argument, and take yourself out of this. Take your bias or weight out of this. You have 2 parties. Let's say the yes and the no groups, right?
Yeah.
And the yes group's argument is that let's further this so we can look into it because we don't want anybody to get hurt and we don't want the curtain to be closed because then those people who don't have a voice will never have a voice forever.
Sure.
Right. So let's keep the curtain open and try to see what's going on. And the no camp is that no, let's not look into it because we don't want to look bad.
Yeah.
The argument is fundamentally flawed from the beginning.
Yes.
The debate is wrong to be voted on because it's not like this is why abortion's bad, this is why abortion should be accepted.
Yeah.
Both of those have legitimate arguments where you could actually talk about different points.
Yes.
The point for the no group on this was that, no, we shouldn't look into it, not because it's happening.
Yeah.
It's no because we don't want you to see it.
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yeah, no, because we don't want you to look at our country next.
Like that's wild.
Yeah.
And the reason that Winston and I were talking about why this is such a big deal, the thumbnail and the title of this video is not meant to be sensational, because this is the moment where, going forward, we look at the difference between a world that wants to keep focusing on human rights and keep kind of going down the right path, where all humans are equal.
Yeah.
I think everyone should, fundamentally believe that people and human beings are equal, right?
At least deserve equal treatment.
At least deserve equal treatment.
Yeah.
But now we're going down a path where China has drawn a line and created a sect of the world that doesn't believe that.
Yeah.
And not only doesn't believe that behind closed doors, but believes that legally, from a legal standpoint in the UN.
Yeah.
And that's a dark, dark path.
The whole point of organizations like the United Nations is to ensure that human rights abuses don't exist, or at least aren't carried out as often as they would be otherwise, right?
Yeah.
That's the whole point. And what is the point of a human rights council that has bad actors on it, like actual countries that are doing human rights atrocities? Why do they get a say?
Yeah,
I feel
an
like
equal say.
Any of these people that you see here, let them join, but they have like a handicap. You know what I mean? So their vote only counts for like a 0.2% or something.
Exactly. Yeah, but
depending on the current atrocities happening in their country.
So here's the deal.
Back
to Metaland, right? If you look at it, the people that are supporting the human rights investigation, or supporting human rights in general, the countries, they give an equal voice because they believe in equality of humanity.
Yes.
To countries that don't have equal rights,
Yes.
right? So what you've done is you've given the same share to countries that want that to go away. They don't believe in that fundamental idea. How does that work?
Yeah.
How does that actually work?
It's a bad system, and honestly, it needs a bit of a reform. This is looking very much like the Treaty of Versailles. It's looking like the old times where things are just falling apart. This is not a good thing.
No, it's a bad direction.
Yeah. So we need to move on from this awful situation, because we all know that this is a farce. Anyone who's got any common sense would be able to see that what's going on with the United Nations is just a joke. All right? It is. It's become a joke. Yeah, in the Human Rights Council. But as far as I'm concerned, that's probably the most important part of the United Nations.
If you're talking about human beings' lives and freedoms.
Yeah. I mean, it's now being run by China and its subordinates.
Yes.
Why is China on the Human Rights Council in the first place? Guys, it's not that long ago that Mao Zedong destroyed the country and let everyone starve to death and did awful things to the people. Not that long ago. Tibet, Xinjiang, what they've done to Hong Kong, what they've done to minorities, Mongolia. Everything that's going on in China right now, as far as I'm concerned, disqualifies China from being on the Human Rights Council in the first place.
I mean, I guess you could use this is devil's advocate, you can use the time-honored tradition of Western powers trying to include China in its current political state on things in hopes that it's going to make it liberalized. And what they've done is propel China in its current political state into backwards reform.
Yes.
Into going back to strongman pariah state, like strongman politics, God complex emperor status, closing itself off, but bringing it to the economic status of where it can actually destroy the world.
Yeah, because it can just buy off all the countries that, would otherwise disagree with it.
Yes.
Yeah?
Yes.
Anyway, kind of a bleak thing, and let's hope that there's some kind of action that's taken in the future against this. All we can do is raise awareness, guys.
This is the bad guys versus good guys like scenario here.
Absolutely.
Not the people in those, by the way, the people in those oppressed countries like Eritrea have no say.
They have no say.
Government. They're bully-ass governments making these decisions.
They've got human rights atrocities of their own to deal with, It's an awful situation, guys, and I think the only way to honestly come out on top of all of this is through awareness. Yeah. The more people that understand what's going on, the more people that can discuss this, the more it can get spotlight, the more chance there is of change happening.
Yeah.
We need to have this change.
And the outcome of this cannot be tolerated.
No.
There needs to be an appeal of
It can't be a situation where China could just always veto. Whenever China does something bad and the rest of the world's like, and I mean, how long has the rest of the world been dragging its feet on these issues, like Tibet and Xinjiang?
Yeah.
Forever, right? Finally gets to a point where it's like, after like so much sacrifice and so many people trying so hard to bring this to the attention of the world, they finally get to a point where it can finally get like looked into, and China's just like, nah, you don't get to do that.
Yeah.
We now own your organizations,
Yeah.
and we can now basically do whatever we want. You know, this shouldn't be how the world runs.
No, not at all.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's
move
have
on.
a couple of super chats before we move on to the rest of our show.
Yes. CDX Greed 420. Thanks for keeping it real.
Yeah.
Mr. PH, if China's economy goes down anymore, then they're gonna have to say that the CCP is brought to you by Raid Shadow Legends.
dude, you know, we were offered a Raid Shadow Legends thing. We never took it.
Yeah.
I mean, we could, but we didn't.
I mean,
we might. Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows? If
might
we
be
get
open to it.
yeah, if it gets to that point. If it gets to that point, if it gets to Raid Shadow Legends point, you know something's amiss.
No, don't say that.
No, I'm just saying.
Maybe we end up falling in love with it.
Maybe it's yeah. I mean,
let's move on.
Yeah.
Chad Malphite, good day, guys. I just purchased a BYD Addo 3. So many questions like, am I giving my info to the CCP? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And Chad, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Why would you buy that?
Nice one.
So many choices out there. I think that was a very poor choice.
Here's
Maybe
the thing.
you have time to sell it off.
If he lives in China,
I don't think he lives in China.
If you live in like a real...
Sounds like he's Australian.
What?
Yeah.
Don't do that. I mean, like, I could understand if you're in South Africa or something because of the ridiculous car prices.
And stuff. No,
you might have to settle for a Chinese car. Good day. I'm going to put it to you this way. You know, I lived in China. I bought a Chinese car. I drove that Chinese car for like 10 years. More than that. Remember that piece of turd?
Yeah.
Brand new car. My first ever
Sure.
and only ever brand new car that I've ever purchased, right?
Yeah.
And
one of the worst cars I've ever driven, by the way.
The AC used to break every year. But here's the thing, like, manual shifted, and I drove it very nicely. Driving on the highway.
Yeah, you did. You took good care of it.
And probably the third year I owned it, probably, I guess. Driving on the highway, try to shift into third gear, and the gear linkage snapped on the highway in a brand new car. Not good. A lot of bad things to say about that.
Probably not good.
I know
Probably not good.
you could say that they're improving the quality and stuff, but yeah, if you had a choice, I wouldn't go for a Chinese car.
Yeah.
Just because you're also supporting IP theft and stuff. But hey, you do you. I get it. There's certain circumstances where you don't have a choice.
Doc Slothington, I didn't mean to miss your super chat. I just don't see it here. So write it in the normal chat and I'll read it. Let's see here. Koala, new outbreak from Northeast Asia. Infecting the whole world from Northeast China.
Port of Dandong.
Dandong, my friend.
By the way, there's an update with Ballsack. Do you guys believe this? But Ballsack's been given another $3.3 million or whatever it is grant to study coronaviruses again.
I mean, if there's one guy that knows about it.
Well, I mean, shit. He certainly knows how to cover where it comes from.
Yeah. Apparently, it's going to take place outside of China this time.
Doesn't matter.
No,
this guy should be given a grant in the freaking penitentiary. Okay, he shouldn't be given it should be rewarded for being a stooge for China.
Yeah.
And like protecting his lab and Baijiu buddies. I'm kind of furious about it.
Yeah. Bethany, I hope you don't change the opening song when you change the intro. I love
Oh,
it.
we
won't.
No.
Bethany,
We'll just we'll do something lazy, like do a strikeout and put the new logo on top.
Could do something like that.
Yeah,
Just
we'll do
cover
that.
it up with a logo.
Well, yeah, I mean, but we kind of want to know people to know what our roots are.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, I suppose.
You know. Anyway, let's keep sending super chats if you want, but we're gonna move on to the next segment.
Oh yeah, we are. Okay, so by the way, we're going to be talking about the Wu Mao Corner, everyone. This is where we get to talk about the haters and the weird stuff that goes on with them. But of course, just before we get into the meat of this thing, we have to show you what you guys missed out on Monday if you aren't a part of the Shaban Ho tier. So let's take a look. Eventually it'll come up.
Okay.
Take the stand with the mic in my hand, I will place the brand.
It doesn't matter.
It's not cool.
It's not cool. He's definitely going to like this one. That's what Red Bull looks like in China.
It's not Red Bull at all.
This is what we'd normally sustain ourselves on, but it's horrendous.
It's like if you take a shit and there's corn in
You
it.
took all the that people have been eating hot dogs and you compressed it. Frickin' egg lady.
Sweaty, hot, room temperature egg.
Forced me to buy her frickin' eggs from down there. She wouldn't stop. She came up to us and she said, did you come from the sky? Yeah, so that, for those of you who don't know, is our Monday sort of VIP show. It's called Shaban Ho, and you can just go to patreon.com/ADV podcasts. If you'd like to join the Shaban Ho tier, we'd love to see you there. It's always fun. And it's not like this show. This show that we do here is all about the current news, and we try to keep you up to date, and we tackle the important stuff. And of course, everything. You watching it, you know what it's about. Shaban Ho, we kind of dig through some of our older pictures and stories and talk about that.
And what we're into. It's more about it's like us and our interaction with you guys as the audience.
Yeah, and last Monday we listened to this ridiculous Christian rap tape that I picked up in a thrift store in Arizona.
Incredible. Incredible.
Yeah.
We had a listening party.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was very fun. Everyone, we actually posted the lyrics on Patreon for people to follow.
Yeah.
And so they followed the lyrics as we jammed out. And we also commentated on it. And then we talked about, the last episode is how we talked about how one of the many instances where people would run into us and just didn't understand where or who we are.
Yeah, some people thought we'd come from the sky. But yeah, you can watch it if you want to find out.
It's fantastic.
Remember that if you do go and join the Shaban Ho tier, you can watch all the previous episodes as well.
Some people are confused. Run that again. You have. I just want to explain this. They're like, "What's happening? How to watch it?"
Oh wait, how do you watch it?
You go to patreon.com/ADV podcast and you join the Shaban Ho tier.
Yes.
Shaban Ho is our Monday only show. Mm-hmm. It's awesome. You can watch it live or you can watch it in post. It's posted on there, so you can watch all the ones we've already done, the whole backlog. And it's just such a good time.
We got to get that mug that says Shaban Ho Tears.
Yes,
but
Shaban
like
Ho Tears.
TIERS.
Yes.
Again,
yes.
Yeah. Anyway, now we got to talk again about some ridiculousness, and we wanted to clear up a few things here, guys. Take a look behind me here. In Yunnan, Sichuanbana, right?
Yep.
Okay, you've been there. I've been there.
Yeah. Rode through the whole area.
Explain what it's all about.
It's on the border with Burma, and Laos. And basically, it's a very tropical, super hot, beautiful area.
Yeah, it's really cool. You get beautiful elephants. Like rice terraces there as well.
Yeah, there's elephants. There's the local minority are wildly different than Chinese people. It's crazy. They're like completely different. There's actually this rapper. That's another story for another time.
There's actually this rapper, yeah.
There's actually this rapper. Anyway, it's another story for another time.
Yes.
But the area is really cool.
Presence, you know?
He does, yeah. You could ride up into the mountains, be freezing cold, and then ride down, and you're in the middle of the jungle. And I did the whole border area. I watched people sneaking into Burma. It was wild, in and out.
Yeah.
Drug trafficking and jewel trade, jade trade. It's wild. It's like a crazy area.
But it's also a very touristy area.
Yeah, for sure.
There's lots of like really cool touristy things to do, especially for domestic tourism. So what happened is Shanghai, being on lockdown or whatnot, opened up. And of course, not just Shanghai, plenty of places around China have recently been locked down pretty badly.
Yeah.
So people are like, holy crap, it's National Day holiday. We get to travel now. And a lot of them went to this area because, hey, it's a beautiful area. You want to go visit there. And guess what happened?
Oh, by the way, real quick,
Mm-hmm.
it's wildly different than the rest of China. My taxi driver, when he showed up to the airport, was smoking a joint, marijuana, in China.
Yeah.
And he was a government taxi guy. Mm-hmm. So it's a little different than the rest of China.
It is a little different. Anyway, so a lot of people went there for their holidays. And, here they are at the train station?
Yeah.
And the armed police turned up. Or I should say the armed Dabai turned up and were like, okay, somebody tested positive. You guys are stuck here now. Screw you all.
Yeah.
You had any plans to have fun on your holiday? No, it's quarantine time, bitches. Okay? And what made this a little different is the guns. Okay? And this was floating around a lot on social media about the fact that they're armed. I want to point out that they're very badly trained, by the way. Okay. And I also wanted to point out the type of guns because there was a lot of confusion. People are like, oh, machine guns. These are not machine guns. These are shotguns.
How can people confuse that with a machine gun?
Well, I mean,
if you look like a machine gun.
If you look at this picture, right? If you were to give it a little glance.
I guess quick.
And, the reason why they were doing that is a lot of the tankies and stuff were saying, oh, they don't even have magazines in them. They're not even, loaded. This is a shotgun, biatch. Take a look. Okay, can you see? Shotguns don't have magazines like assault rifles or like machine guns.
Why would they have empty guns anyway?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
wouldn't.
It doesn't make sense.
Okay, so I just want to go back to this clip over here. Okay, here. I zoomed in a little bit. Okay. These guys suck. Let's get into it. They've got like their managing director or whatever the hell you would call him over there. Like, you guys stand here. No, wait. No, stand there. Okay. Now you turn around. Okay. Face there. Yes. Okay. There we are. What kind of training do these guys have? What is this crap? Anyway, back to the guns.
Don't talk crap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Where is that?
Don't talk tribe.
And it is crap, by the way, not tribe. Let's move back to this whole situation here because the guns are important. They're not machine guns. They are shotguns. And the reason why it's important to mention that they're shotguns is that is standard riot control gear the world over. Doesn't matter what country you're from. In South Africa, you see that all the time. In South Africa, they load them up with rubber bullets. It's been like that since when I was a young kid in the 80s. And what they do is they suppress crowds by shooting the rubber bullets down into the ground just in front of the crowds. It bounces up and hits them. It's not lethal. And it keeps them like, you know, I don't know, it hurts like hell and it gets them to stop being rioting and whatever. But if you look at the guy next to him, he's got a riot shield. So riot shields and shotguns, totally normal for a riot situation. And so what they've done here, and you can see if you look at a shotgun, it's got a heat rail on the top there as well to dissipate heat. It's just a shotgun, definitely not a machine gun. And you don't want a machine gun in this situation because, especially if you've got an assault rifle with a, like a 5.56 or whatever, it's got such penetration that it'll go through lots of people. If you do shoot it into a crowd, you'll kill multiple people. Yeah. But with a shotgun, even if it's got like a buckshot or something, which is lethal, it'll probably just kill one person and not the person behind.
Scare everyone else.
Yeah, exactly. But they possibly got non-lethal rounds or less than lethal rounds of them. Who knows?
Sure.
The fact of the matter is they were expecting a riot situation.
Yes.
And so they got out the riot gear.
Yeah.
And they sent in these riot police to...
They didn't have a riot, that's for sure.
To basically control their own populace because they were worried that when they locked them down again, especially...
Why is everyone saying beanbag rounds? We don't know that.
Yeah.
But they have sidearms as well?
No, they've got pepper spray and stuff there, probably, and some cuffs and things. Here's the thing. Beanbag rounds could also be in shotguns too, but I don't know if they...
We don't know that. I'm just saying you can't make that claim.
No, it could be. It could be anything. That's the thing. Shotguns are quite versatile.
Yeah.
It could be slugs.
Yeah.
You never know what's in there.
You don't know.
Yeah, and usually I know that in the States and other places, when they've got a less than lethal shotgun that's got beanbag rounds or whatever, it'll be orange. Have you noticed? They have like an orange stock and they differentiate between the less than lethal and lethal guns.
Somebody said these aren't beanbags because the barrels are too narrow.
Yeah, exactly.
They're different guns, aren't they? Well, no, you can modify it.
I'm pretty sure you get beanbag rounds. You get all sorts of weird rounds. You get flare rounds and stuff for shotguns. I've seen all sorts of things. You can make homemade stuff. I knew a guy used to load them up with buckwheat or something.
Oh, weird.
So that if you shoot someone, the seeds go into their skin and then germinate later, and it's really itchy. You know, you sadist. I don't know. You get people put salt and all sorts of things. Anyway, shotguns are very versatile is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. That guy was such a weirdo. Yeah, shit. Anyway, fact of the matter is, this is a riot control situation. And I guess they realize, hey, there's a bunch of tourists probably just come from being locked down somewhere else. They can finally get out.
Yeah.
And now we're going to go lock them down again. Let's make sure if there's a riot, we can suppress it.
Yes.
Okay. So I just wanted to clear up some confusion because it's not machine guns.
Jan Jordan said, so Sinovac wasn't effective?
No. Oh, yeah. Did you hear about the Moderna thing, by the way?
Yeah.
You know, everybody knows Moderna and Pfizer were the two big ones in the States, the two big mRNA vaccines. And the reason why they didn't sell the vaccine in China and why people didn't get it basically was the Chinese government said, the only way we're going to let you sell it here is if you give us the formula. You give us the IP. That's what China does. They're like, you give us your secrets. You give us everything that you've worked and spent millions of billions of dollars of research on. You give that to us for free, and then we'll let you sell your vaccine.
Yeah. They
were like, no, because you know the Chinese government would have just made their own domestic one using their formula anyway and cut them out. Yeah. They were smart, but the Canadians gave their vaccine straight away.
Like no questions.
Yeah, asked. They were like, oh yeah, here's the formula.
Let's win the world together.
Yes.
I'm super worried about Canada.
Yeah, me too. At least they've got the Aurora to protect them.
Yeah, it's true.
You know?
Canada will go nowhere as long as they have their Aurora.
Yes, the Aurora's there. Anyway, back to these guys. So just wanted to tell you guys what was going on there. It's another awful situation. It's another one of these snap lockdowns. And it's just one of those things that you're going to have to get used to in China right now. The zero COVID crap's not going away.
No.
It's now becoming...
I don't know why people... There's this weird fantasy, and I think it's actually amongst a lot of expats in China that are even pretty critical of the CCP. But it's this bizarre fantasy that after the People's Congress thing in October, that somehow zero COVID is going to go away. Why would you think that? It's the ultimate best control the CCP has ever asked for, and people are just rolling over and accepting it. So what? It's like... Dude, you know what a great analogy is? It's like the footage of people that are shouting at the dabai holding the shotguns.
Yeah.
And it sounds like they're about to like erupt into protest or something. It sounds like it's anti-government, right? So they're shouting, "You can't shoot us all. What are you going to shoot us all?" You know, and it sounds like there's going to be a massive revolt.
Sure.
And American/Western logic goes, those people are going to go back after all this and be like, you know what? This government's bad. Nope.
No.
There will be no change. Those people will not rise up against the government. In fact, they might even celebrate the Beijing government. They might love Xi Jinping even more after this because they won't attribute that problem to him or the government. They will never put the blame of zero COVID on the CCP because the Chinese government has done this on purpose. It's by design to make it a local issue every time.
Yeah, they'll blame the local police.
Every time. So the people say, "Oh, you local police, you're so bad." They'll play the national anthem.
Yeah.
They'll hold the flag. They'll have their protests and they'll say,
they'll have a Mao Zedong banner.
Mao Zedong banner or Xi Jinping banner. They'll say, "We love China. We are Chinese. You Xi'an police are bad.
Yunnan
you
police.
Sichuan police are bad. You Shanghai police are bad."
Yeah.
Do you understand how this works now?
Yeah, exactly. They'll be, those, whoever was in charge of that in Yunnan, you screwed up. You're a bad person.
Yeah.
Long live Xi Jinping.
Yeah.
Here's my Mao banner.
Nothing will change.
No, that's the problem.
Nothing.
The people caught up in that probably never ever criticized the government before.
No.
They're currently only pissed off because they're inconvenienced, and they won't criticize the government afterwards, as somebody I know once said. Anyway, let's take a look at the thing behind us, actually. This is a lovely little exercise at a Chinese kindergarten. I mean, at least preschool. They look really young. How young do you think they are?
Like
3 or 4? That much?
Yeah.
No. My kid's
5?
that tall, almost. Yeah, maybe 5, maybe 4 or 5. 4 or 5-year-old. Let's take a look what's going on. Yeah, I'd say 5. Yeah, I love it when my 5-year-old daughter learns how to fire a mortar. You know what I mean? It's kind of dumb, isn't it?
I just don't like the intent.
Well, I've seen a lot worse.
No, I just don't like the intent.
I don't like the intent either. The thing is, like, both you and I taught young kids in China at some point in our careers, right?
Yeah.
We know how bad it is in the kindergartens and stuff. I mean, you get your patriotic crap in the morning. They have to do the flag-raising ceremony every day and sing the national anthem. Yeah, I mean, you got that. That's whatever. I mean, that happens
This is how they salute, by the way.
Yeah.
Kids salute like this.
They do. And they wear that red scarf or whatever. Being the young pioneers and stuff.
Young pioneers.
It's
all ripped off from the Soviet Union, by the way.
Of course it is. Like, remember, if China's doing something, they had to have gotten the idea from somewhere.
This great treasure trove of all the Soviet propaganda that was copied by China. It's almost everything.
Yeah.
And it's like a side-by-side we show it at some point. It's very funny.
It's kind of, it's awful to see that China's real culture is no longer there. It's just all based on Soviet and Marx and all that crap.
And anti-culture.
By the way, everybody, if you haven't, please bookmark my video that I released this morning to go and watch later. It's about the cardboard police force in China.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a good
and other people from like Poland and other places are like, oh, that happens in our country too. You see, China has to get the idea from somewhere. They're not going to just out of their mind like be like, you know what, this is a great idea. No, they look elsewhere and they're like, that's a good idea to copy. You know, right. Unfortunately, that's the modern China. Of course, ancient China, different story. Beautiful culture, beautiful history. Lots of great things came from ancient China.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's move on from that nonsense. All right. We have just a little thing that kind of pissed me off a little the other day. Is the National Day holiday was recent, October 1st.
I do. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with celebrating your nation.
No way.
Nothing whatsoever. But one thing that I do find a bit ridiculous is the propensity for Chinese nationalists abroad to celebrate the National Day. But it's not about celebrating the National Day. It's more like a silent invasion. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because what they'll do is they'll do things like this, right? They'll go, this is at the University of Illinois, go and put on their alma mater statue, put the Chinese flag at midnight.
Yeah.
You know, why not in the day? I don't know. At midnight, go stick it up and then post on their Xiaohongshu in this case, which is Little Red Book. It's like an app. Yeah. It's kind of social media app, as if they've like invaded or like won a victory for China by doing this.
Yeah,
it's the intent behind it.
Yeah, that's the issue.
You know,
I don't care.
No, me neither. I'm totally fine.
It kind of illustrates that they think people are going to be really upset.
Yeah,
because people in China would just imagine if you were to go hang up an American flag on a Mao Zedong statue in China.
Any statue of anyone.
Just do it. Yeah. I would love to see what would happen to you.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing. They have that same mentality, don't they? Because you couldn't even hang an American flag at your school.
Yeah, my own business.
Yeah, which was an American
next to a Chinese flag.
Yeah, you couldn't do it.
I can leave the Chinese flag. I had to take down the American one.
Yeah, so if you can't even do that in your own private, and it was your own private school, and your own private window, and your own private marketing material, which is relevant because you were teaching American English.
Yes.
You couldn't even hang that. Nope. Imagine trying to take an American flag and unfurl it.
The cops showed up.
Yeah.
The police showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go to any statue.
They were mean.
Yeah, of course. Any statue in China, it doesn't matter of who or what, and you go hang an American flag on it, within a minute, it'll be torn down, you'll be beaten up by a mob, or you'll be dragged off or detained, or whatever the case.
Yeah, because what happened to me was pre-Xi Jinping. Can't even imagine now.
Oh, man, it'd be terrible. So
people would beat the shit out of you.
They would. And I mean, that's why this bothers me.
Yeah.
Not so much because, like, I'm all for people. I don't care. Like, if it was the South African National Day or whatever.
Yeah, sure. I don't care.
I really don't care about the South African National Day.
Fair enough.
But I'm just saying, let's say it was South African National Day.
I don't care about these kids doing it, though.
And you go and you have, like, a little celebration at your American university, and you have your flags, you paint the flag on your face or something, do your thing. Whatever. I don't think you'd be hanging your South African flag on the campus alma mater statue.
It's in poor taste.
That's pretty in poor taste. It's got nothing to do with your country. Sure. Whatever that thing is all about, that's not yours Chicago, to hang your crap on, Yeah. But I'm just saying, like, whatever. But it's the fact that I know, and these people also know, that you may not do something like this in China. So it's kind of like they're taking advantage of that, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I just don't like that they know that this equivalent can't be done, and they're celebrating the system in the country where it's allowed to be done. But acting covertly about it.
Yeah.
And thinking that they're doing something bad.
Well, I mean, look,
you know what I mean?
There were flag-raising ceremonies all over America and Australia and the UK and everywhere, in every Chinatown and every little place. On Chinese National Day, which is fine. It's whatever. If your community wants to celebrate that, go ahead and celebrate it, But, there's just certain lines, I think, that shouldn't be crossed personally.
Yeah, no, and again, I don't care. Like I don't even care that these guys did this. Doing a bit of trolling, do whatever you want, bro. I don't care. That's fine. Support you doing that. I don't care. But I do have an issue with the hypocrisy of that, very well knowing what would happen in the alternative situation.
Yeah, in the like in the reverse situation. Yeah. So I believe that's the end of the Wu Mao corner here. Yes, it totally is. All right, so it's time for a couple of super chats before we hit Worldview.
Salty Milk Dog, are Birkenstocks popular amongst Laoban? Absolutely not. No. Sean O'Sullivan, 30.
That costs too much.
Yes. 37 today in a row. What does that mean, Sean? Can I get a Dr. Peter?
Oh, you certainly can. Dr. Pepper. Yeah, it is like a Dr. Pepper. A Dr. Ballsack.
Little green ghoul.
Do you think he watches our show?
Oh, yeah. Huge fan.
Yeah. That's probably his like ringtone now. Whenever someone sends him a message, it goes like ballsack. You know what I mean?
He embraced it. If I sent him, I would too.
Yeah, I get merch.
He got $3 million, so it's no big. He's clearly won this.
This dude's like, he's rolling in it. He's like, I got away with this like fat stacks of cash. He's like lighting money on fire.
He's like, got $3 million. He's like, I got $3 million to sue the shit out of these guys.
Exactly.
Now.
Yeah. Call me ballsack. I'll show you. I'll use this grant
I'm gonna use government grants to sue these guys that made fun of a public figure.
Yes, that's right.
Little green ghoul. I understand China. Oh, good.
Oh, you mean
you gotta understand China.
Nice.
Missed last week due to a Benadryl complications, but back in health, better than ever. More soundboards, suit guy, mean, throw pie. Lecker says, I hear the CCP's space agency is planning to explore Uranus with a probe.
Okay.
I think we should be ready for a colonoscopy with Chinese characters.
Yeah, very possibly.
Bjorn Thiela says Ripley would nuke China from orbit. What does that mean?
You know, from Aliens.
Oh,
I say
Ripley,
we nuke the side from orbit just to be sure.
Let's not nuke anyone.
No.
In fact, we're talking about
We're going to talk about that next, yeah.
Star 4161, thank you very much. Ovik Arnian, Winston is regarded as stunningly handsome. Nice save. Nice save, Ovik. That was a close one.
Yeah, it was very
called
close.
him regarded as something else. A. Watson, I got the Angerworm t-shirt delivered this week in Minnesota. Yay. Awesome. Hope you're supporting
Fantastic,
proudly.
man. That's great. Yeah, if you have the means or want to post on the subreddit.
Yeah, let's see the merch.
Yeah, I mean, if you're worried about your identity, just don't show your face.
Just show your shirt.
Yeah.
Wing 083, Urban Prepper sounds like something you would see on the History channel.
Yeah, dude. You could make it happen.
How much Benadryl would you recommend storing?
Stop.
That's up to your discretion, but definitely follow the bottle's recommended dosing.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's move on.
Okay, it's time for us to hit Worldview, where we talk about everything in the world, specifically with regards to China. So it's kind of like what's new, but a little different.
Yeah.
Okay, so
With
what
the
do we got?
world and usually related to other countries as well.
Yes. So we've got the Global Times, which of course is China's state-affiliated barking dog media.
Yes.
And they always have these like
state-affiliated, state-run.
State-run. I shouldn't say affiliated. It is the state.
Yes.
And they always have these ridiculous cartoons, which we still haven't done an episode on.
Man, it's so good.
Yeah, there's such rubbish that they put out. They've got cartoons of me, by the way.
Yeah, Global Times made one of you.
Yeah, they made a cartoon of me.
Yeah.
And they drew me in a suit trying to like entice Chinese girls with a rose. Remember that crap?
Yeah. Like how off base was that?
Yeah, you know that because I made
video is about how you can't.
It's hilarious. I'll quickly give you a backstory. I made a video way back in the day, like probably 10, 11 years ago.
Yes.
Of me sitting at a table. I used to get a lot of questions. Are Chinese girls easy? Is it easy to date? So I made a video called Are Chinese Girls Easy with a question mark. And in the video I said no.
Right.
Okay. But because of the title, some people lost their rag. Okay. And this particular writer for the thing made a huge article. So it actually...
There's a pen name, girl.
Yeah.
It's probably some dude.
No, it was a girl.
Oh, it was? Did
Remember,
you check her down?
Yeah, we looked into it, but it was ridiculous. Anyway, the fact of the matter is, because she wrote an article about me with this crappy artwork the Global Times drew of me, I then made a second video on the topic, which was way more successful than the first one. Yeah. And it proved my point because during the video, I had people girls approach me and talk to me and stuff.
Right.
And it really just made it worse for them.
Much worse.
It made my message stronger and their message weaker.
Yes.
So it's kind of funny. But we'll get into that. What do we got going on here, though? Let's talk about this.
So, in a rare move, and I should say not rare move at all.
Yeah.
It actually ties in directly with current China policy.
Okay.
So do you know what Xi Jinping did?
What did he do?
He warned that if Ukraine joins NATO, then there's going to be severe punishments and consequences.
Okay.
By the way, China had, in 2013, had a security pact with Ukraine because they have to recognize the sovereignty of nations.
Right.
It's a big, huge foible if they don't because of their whole situation with Taiwan.
Yeah.
So they're in a situation where they have to be like, yo, Russia, calm down a little bit. Like, Ukraine's a sovereign nation, right? They don't think Ukraine is not a sovereign nation. They have to regard it as a sovereign nation, right? But now they've really gotten in bed with Russia so badly at this point that they're kind of just revoking all of those agreements that they've made.
Dude, any agreement China makes is not worth the paper it's written on.
Just rip it up.
Look at what they did with Hong Kong.
Yeah.
Look at what they do with everything. Oh, we're not going to do this. Oh, we're going to crack down on counterfeiters. Oh, we're going to do this and that. No, never.
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to protect the environment. Nope. Nonsense. Don't believe what the Chinese government says. It's lies.
Yes, it is. So to make this simple, when you see policy like that come out or statements come out of the leadership, you'll see filtered down like little suckling pigs, little leeches come out. And they do op-eds for state media to make it look like it's organic and not like state media.
Yeah.
This is directly in line with what Xi Jinping said, and this is from a guy named Franz.
Franz Gale.
I looked him up, right? Mm-hmm. He is. Let me just pull it up. I'm not. By the way, he's a public speaker.
Posting his L's here.
He is a troop safety whistleblower, by the way.
For what?
And he talked about
what is a troop safety
whistleblower? He's a retired U.S. Marine Corps, right?
Okay.
And he blew the whistle on some really bad stuff that was happening in Iraq.
Right.
Which was great, right?
Yeah, good for them. Good for him for doing that.
The problem is when you look into it, he ended up doing things like this, right? So you have scorned U.S. military. We've heard this story many times, by the way.
So they align themselves with China.
They align themselves with the enemy.
Yeah,
right?
or Russia.
And by the way, I'm not saying enemy isn't Chinese people. I'm saying
no,
the Chinese government is the state media, right?
Yes.
So you have this like whistleblower status. He gets a lot of scrutiny for it. And obviously people at the top are pissed off, all this kind of stuff, right? And then, I'm now an enemy of America, so I'm going to align myself with the enemy of China, right? Sure.
Long story short. Anything to attack the U.S.
Yeah, so...
What does he say?
It doesn't matter what he says. What matters is that the Global Times published this.
And what is the gist of this thing that they published?
The gist of this is that, more or less, that Russia using nuclear weapons in Ukraine would be justified, and Russia would be able to win the war. And that the U.S. trying to sell weapons covertly to Ukraine and NATO trying to support Ukraine in this conflict, that's Russia and Ukraine's business, right? Yeah. Is ultimately doomed to failure because Russia could use weapons of mass destruction, and it would be okay if they did that. By the way, number two, the only reason that the U.S. won the Cold War is because of mutual assured destruction. So in that two nations that have nuclear weapons, they're not going to ever use nukes on each other because they could both just wipe out the Earth, right? Yeah. They're both going to die in this scenario, so there's no point.
Right.
So it's kind of like deterrence through power, right? Yeah. So he's saying that that's bad. That's like a bad Western concept. Mutually assured destruction is a bad Western concept. What really we should look at here is why it's justified, because it's none of U.S. and NATO's business. So this is right in line with what Xi Jinping said and what the Chinese leadership said. And you can always see these little leech articles that come out of
So what you're doing is you're just shining a spotlight on one of the many people that are working for the Chinese state to further their propaganda.
Correct.
Yeah.
We've
seen this a lot with a lot of Westerners, especially they're called tankies.
Yeah.
But people who love authoritarian states, who love oppression, who absolutely just want to see the end of the United States. That's their only goal in life. And they have now been aligning themselves with either Russia or China and
it's both.
and very often both.
Yeah.
And what happens is they end up being propagandists and writing crap like this for the state
You know
media.
what I have to say to this guy?
Oh, yeah. What do you want to say to him?
I want to tell him to don't do something.
Okay. Oh, what? Don't
talk tribe.
Yeah, exactly. That's my message to you, buddy.
Anyway, let's move on. What do we got over here? What's this?
So this is bigger news than a lot of people are making it out to be.
Mm-hmm.
This, Douyin, so China's TikTok, right?
It is TikTok.
No, it is TikTok. It's just TikTok. It's just the name for it.
Yeah.
Douyin. Douyin in China, so I'll just say TikTok. TikTok in China is pulling the plug on Cantonese speaking live streamers.
Yes.
And some speculation as to why, but they're basically the auto subtitles that'll come up with Chinese characters don't work on Cantonese.
Yeah.
This only works for Mandarin. Now, Mandarin Chinese, the language that me and Winston speak, is a national language of China. And people that only speak Mandarin in China hate anybody that speaks dialects that they don't understand. They always call it uncivilized or whatever. Cantonese is spoken by over 100 million people in the south of China where we used to live.
Yes.
By the local people there, not the outsiders.
Yeah, and of course, and Hong Kong speaks Cantonese and various other diasporas around the world speak Cantonese.
So, if you look at this from the top, most analysts agree that this is an effort for the Chinese government to take the most popular app, social media app with video in terms of video and live streaming, pull the plug on anybody speaking Cantonese because that represents a culture that is separate from China. Mainland China's Mandarin culture. Mandarin culture is dictated by Beijing. Mm-hmm. Hong Kong previously has dictated kind of the culture of Cantonese, and Cantonese, being Hong Kong's culture, means it's outward focused, not inward focused. Not focused towards China, it's focused towards the rest of the world and being international. Lots of loan words from English, lots of pop culture references from Western media and international media. Whereas China's focus is on Beijing and state control. So you pull the plug on, and if you ban, what amounts to a ban of the Cantonese language on the biggest social media video app, you pull the plug on rebellious culture.
I mean, look, there's another angle to this as well, is that they don't understand it.
Oh, yeah, that's a huge thing.
That's
for
the
sure.
thing, because you can't censor what you don't understand.
It's a two-pronged approach here.
So, the fact that you said like the automatic subtitling and stuff, so in other words, the algorithms cannot pick up accurately what's being said in Cantonese, obviously. And so they can't employ their censorship mechanisms properly because words, that's how it works. If the algorithm picks up any words or any sentences or anything that's not allowed to be spoken about, it immediately cuts the stream.
Yeah.
And it immediately those people's accounts get suspended, they get investigated, things like that. But if the algorithm cannot pick up accurately what's being said, and if the minders, the monitor guys who are sitting there watching these streams aren't fluent in Cantonese and all the colloquialisms
Nuances.
and so on.
It's a more developed language than Mandarin.
Then they can't effectively censor it.
Yes.
So they're just like, well, it's too much hassle. Let's just ban the use of the language.
Yeah, it's like we want to use this more primitive language so we can pay attention to what you're saying. Yeah, so Cantonese, this is a big issue, by the way. When you do this and you demonize someone's language and culture that's in the Han majority, that is seen as a major slight. If there's one thing you can do to piss off Cantonese people, it's take away their language, because that is their identity, right?
Yeah.
It's huge. You know how big that is.
Yeah, of course.
It's part of their identity. This making Cantonese people speak Mandarin has been a huge point of contention for a while now.
Well, they can make the Uyghurs speak Mandarin, so why can't they make the Hong Kongese
this is
and
my
the
point.
Cantonese? Yeah.
This is my point, is that now it's another blow to this, and if it's taken and people roll over and they take this, it's another massive blow to ultimate control from Beijing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty crappy thing to happen, to be fair.
It is.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
Well, what else do you expect from the Communist
Cantonese,
Party of China?
Cantonese culture, language, and history is representative of a lot of Chinese history that's not been lost yet.
Yes.
And that's another blow to that. Another cultural revolution 2.0.
Yeah, it is.
And I hate when people use that as like an easy way just to criticize the government now, but that's what's happening.
It is. Yeah. It is. Well, we're shining a spotlight on it. Speaking of which, guys, I know maybe a lot of you get you don't get to watch the whole show, or maybe you watch part of the show, or you missed a segment or whatever. That's what China Fact Chasers is all about. If you don't know, we have another channel. It's called China Fact Chasers, and it is basically we take out subjects that we've spoken about in the main show, cut it out, we edit, we add extra stuff, so you're not just watching the same thing again. But if you're ever looking for a particular subject that we've spoken about, you can find it on China Fact Chasers, and it is like a daily bite-sized video. We release a video on there every single day.
By the way, it's more than that, because these videos are edited.
Yeah,
so
like
if me and you are just talking right now, it'll have B-roll, clips, it'll have extra footage and stuff added.
So we're talking about something, and there'll be something on the screen for you to see. So
let's
check
say
it out.
Jim at work's like, oh, did you see what happened in Xinjiang the other day, right?
Yeah.
Or did you see what happened in Shanghai? And then you don't want to share a 3-hour episode.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, go to China Fact Chasers. It's like a 10-minute clip about it.
Yeah, or
right?
a 5-minute clip or a 3-minute,
yeah.
whatever. Subscribe if you haven't, guys. Please, we'd appreciate it. We're trying to grow that channel.
Yeah.
And it's a nice little daily dose of a little subject here and there.
Every day.
Yeah. Anyway, all of that aside, I think it's time for us to hit our Q&A. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
All right, let's do it. So now we're going to enter Yum Cha. For those of you who don't know, this is our Q&A section of the show where we answer your super chats. We leave it up today, obviously live. We leave it up on the weekends, but on Monday we cut it out of the show. Otherwise, the show goes on too long for people who want to just watch it.
Yeah.
And you can always watch full episodes if you are a patron of any tier. So just so you know. Anyway, time to loosen the tie. And for those of you who aren't sticking around, who are now watching this on Monday or beyond, stay awesome. We'll see you next time. And for the rest of you, let's get stuck into it.
David Lopan says, seeing as y'all spent so long living in China, do you ever have dreams about it? What are those like? Yeah, I actually had all the time. I had a dream the other day that I was in Inner Mongolia where I used to live, and I ended up there, and I'm like, holy shit, if I get spotted, I'm going to get arrested, right? I'm basically a dissident, right?
Right.
And so the whole dream is me trying to avoid, but also trying to meet up with my old friends.
Right.
So that happens quite often.
I'm one of those people who either can't remember their dreams or just don't dream. And if it ever is a dream, it's because I'm half awake, rolling around or whatever, And no, I don't dream about China. But I do sometimes have weird dreams of being stalked by, Wu Maos and stuff, because they often try their best,
Sure.
So that's about it.
Ultra Primarch Female wins the zombie apocalypse. Ballsack zombies. We've been working on cordyceps, but we swear we're not weaponizing it like The Last of Us.
Yes. I loved that game, at least the first one. I didn't even buy the second one. Looked not my style.
The only survival horror games, yeah, I tried to play it like 3 times. I didn't like it. I'm like the only person that doesn't like it.
It's great.
I just don't like it. I don't like repetitive shooting stuff I just don't like shooting stuff.